Welcome to a video from the digitallifestyle.com. This is another sound pack. This is for the Korg Wavestate. I'm here on the rack version, the module version, but it works on all the versions of Wavestate, Native, SE, and the Mark 1, Mark 2. This is the DX7 collection. This is a set of samples I've done from my TX7, which is a DX7 in a box, came out exactly the same time. I've done a full video on that. So what I did, I sampled loads of my favorite samples, patches from the DX7, the TX7. Some of them ones I've created, some of the ones I've downloaded over the years. And I brought those into the Wavestate and then applied the unique Wavestate capabilities to it. So some of them have got sequencing, some of them have got crossfading wave shaping, some of them are just the samples, got velocity switching, other things like that to make a really interesting set of DX7 sounds for the Wavestate. Actually, I found it really useful. I made this initially for myself, and I thought others might be interested in it as well, because my TX7's over there on the rack, and I've got to, get connected up and set into the mixer and everything else. So I just sampled the ones I like to use the most, put them in here, and once they're in the Wavestate, you've got all the things you can do with the Wavestate, the sequencing, all the built-in effects and everything else. So it's so handy. Especially with the native one, I can open Cubase and have these sounds instantly and setting everything up. So that's why I've done them. So in this video, I'm going to demonstrate those. At the end, I'll talk about how you get the samples in. But all these are multi-samples that I've done myself. Some of them velocity and some of them are all of them multi-samples. Right, so let me demonstrate some of the sounds and I'll talk about them as I'm going through. You can see it on the editor as well. So this one is a multi-layer one. This is a four DX7's pad. So what you can hear there is you've got four DX7s effectively playing, because I've got the four layers. If I disable the other layers, and you can hear there's got a string lad sample. And many of these sounds, I've got them in the collection, so you'll hear those. And turn them off. So it's about building those layouts with different envelopes, and they're on sort of different times on them. So that's that one. So this is 12-string velocity switch. So the idea of this one is the 12-string sample, but I always find that FM responds really well to velocity and things like that. So what I did this one is I multi-sampled it, and all these are multi-sampled. So you've got each one. I think there's four samples per layer. What I did on this one though is I recorded it twice at low velocity and high velocity. I've done this with a few others as well, and then I've used the function here in the wave sequencer. So you can actually tell it to adjust the start sample based on velocity. So if you press it quietly, you get that one. Hard, you get that one. So by default, you don't have multi-velocity samples being able to be brought in through the sample builder. So this is a way of doing that. Right, let's go through some more sounds. This is 3 Oscillator Synth. Uses poly aftertouch. This one's called 80s. So there you can hear that I brought in that marimba, created the kick and drum using the built-in samples, and the bass and that marimba are from the DX7. This is a similar kind of one, but this is using a sample called Activate, and I'll sequence this one. Sounds better if you play it here, I think. Now those drum sounds are actually Simmons drums sampled from the DX7 as well. So they're actually, that's using the sequence, the Activate sound and the drum kit, which has got its own sound, which I'll come to later. So this sound called Activate, I really like this one. So I recorded this at 3 different levels, so you can get a different effect. Ambient Pad, one of my favourite pad sounds. And then this sound, that pad sound with a classic 80s piano sound, the CP80. Pad. This is analog 1. Is the patch name that was on the DX, not that analog. This one called Banks T, I like this one. This is maybe a Tony Banks sound. It's very typical DX7 type sound. Bass 2, one of the sort of classic sounds. You can hear that resonance on the end there. I'm pretty sure Berlin used bass 2, but edited the pack so it doesn't have the resonance on there, which you could do by just using the envelope to trim that off. A couple more classic sounds. This is block sequence. Classic brass sound. Real DX7 sound. And Calopy. You can hear the poly aftertouch on that. A choir sound. It does have a choir-like sound to it, doesn't it? And I like this one. Proper the FM sound there. This is a Combi Pad, so I've used a couple of different sounds to be sort of a combi. Maybe like a DX5, DX1, Digi bass. And distorted guitar. No distortion used here. This is just the pack. The distortion effect is coming from the FM synthesis. And one of the sounds, this is Electroback. This was, I think, one of the presets on the DX7 S when that came out. Ensemble, which is like a string type sound. More pad-like, I suppose, than string. And then we've got 2 evolvers, slightly different. You can hear it evolving. And then evolver 2. And you can see I'm using a wave sequence to get that effect, switching through the samples. Evolving flute, similar idea. Classic flute, but then it evolves into that pad sound. that string sound. With poly aftertouch. Then we've got the classic flute as well. The classic harmonica. And one called JX Hybrid. So imagine that you had a hybrid of say a JX3P or a JX8 for the analog sound and the DX for the digital sound, and you put them together as a layer. You get initial attack from the DX and then the pad from the JX. The Koto, the classic one. And some layered strings. The marimba, the classic marimba. And I've sequenced that as well. So kind of envisaged a Tangerine drum using an analog sequencer in the 70s, and I swapped it for those FM sounds. This kind of MIDI song one, this one is using loads of samples. I think I got the idea of this from a called Wavestate patch that has lots of different samples all sequenced together, and so we get and that's the kind of thing you can do with the Wavestate. You can take all these different samples and bring them together like that. Overdrive bass. And a pick guitar. And the Strat, so this PPG Strat. So this is a DX7 emulating a PPG, which is trying to make a Strat sound, sampled on a Wavestate. This is a set of sound. So I've got a string on there with the PPG sound and the sequence. So there's a really good Simmons drum patch. Doesn't sound that much, but actually it sounds very Simmons drumsy. And so I sampled those, and especially if you play it here, I think. So it sounds pretty good, I think, for like a Simmons kit. So this is called Smash Hit. So you can control it through those layers like that. And this is a variation on that. Then we've got a Strat sound. And a nice sort of string fades. Because we're crossfading between the samples there. String pad. and super bass from DX7 2. Super bass from DX7 2. Switching guitar, so I've used a technique of switching, and this is using note on advance to switch between them. Syn Brass 1. Sort of trying to recreate an analog type sound on the DX7. There's a template. I always include a template in my collection. It just has all the things set in the right place. The classic tubular bells. Very Top Gun. Or Christmas, depending on where you play it. I had to include the electric piano sound, of course. So I've done this velocity switching again. So there's 3 layers of this one to get that electric piano sound. And of course, if you don't like the velocity switching, you can just use one of the samples and create a single layer, or just change that bit. A velocity switch nylon guitar. And finally, we've got a vibraphone. So all these have got poly aftertouch set on as well. So let me just move over to the PC, and I'll show you about importing them. So I can switch over here, and let's have a look about how you import those. So there's 2 things you've got to do. You import the sound pack here from the Wavestate editor. You go to File, Import, browse for the file that you found in the zip file, and then import that in. So that'll bring all the performance data. The other thing you need to do is to bring the samples in. So for that, you need to go to Sample Builder, which is a free download from Korg. It's Korg Sample Builder. So here's Sample Builder. So there's 2 ways you can do this. You can open my compiled bank. So go to Open Bank, browse for the bank, which is the ID DX7 bank. So browse for the file that you can unzip. You'll see it here. It's the ID DX7. And here you can see all the samples. So it already knows where those files are, in the sample files in the subfolder. Pick your device, so Wavestate, and send that. And that'll send that down. But what it will do is it will get rid of all the custom samples you've already got in your Wavestate. So if you don't want to do that, what you do is do what I do and have a master bank. So I have one here called ID Samples, which contains all my samples, and I add to it each time and then send that down. I don't wipe and transmit each time. So here you can see my master set. Then what you would do is you would add multi-samples, browse for the files that you downloaded. So let's say got them up here. So here's my master one. What you do then is you go to Add Multi-Samples, browse to the folder where you unzipped my multi-samples. And if you scroll down, you'll see all the files there. So you can just click on the first one, hold down Shift, click on the bottom one and do Open, and it'll bring that into your existing bank and then send that down. So there's 2 ways to do it. You just send my bank, but it wipes what you've got in there, or maintain a master one and just add them to your master. That's the way I like to do it. And that's it. So I hope you like this collection. It's available from the digitallifestyle.com store. By buying this set, you're enabling me, supporting me to continue doing more sets. There is a little free taster on there as well if you don't want to buy them. It's quite fun doing the TX7. It's a great little box to sample, and of course it's the classic DX7 sound. If you want to find out more about the DX7 TX7, check out our YouTube channel. I've got more sound packs for the Wavestate and Mod Wave and multiplayer. So thanks for watching this video. Thanks for staying to the end. I'll see you on the next one.